Hunter Greene has one thing to prove in 2026, and we are going to tell you exactly how he's going to prove it on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network in all the land. His name's Jeff Carr. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. We love baseball. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love talking about these things. In fact, so much we've been doing it for a combined 16 seasons in podcast form. We're glad you're here. We can't wait to talk a little Reds baseball with you. On today's show, a little bit later, we're going to talk about the Reds base running from 2025, how that carries over into 2026, and decide if they were really less aggressive than they were the year before. Some of the numbers don't necessarily line up to say that's completely true. We're going to tell you why here in just a little while. Also, we've heard a lot of the talk coming out of Philadelphia with Nick Castellanos. He's going to be available. He's been told not to come to spring training, and Jeff doesn't want him to come to Cincinnati. He's going to tell you why here in just a few minutes. But where we are going to start is with starting pitcher number 1, the ace of the staff, Hunter Greene, and what is a reasonable expectation for him, what you can expect to get from Hunter Greene in 2026. We're going to tell you about that right now, because Jeff, I want you to know I believe Hunter Greene is the ace of the staff. Now, I know I have said he shouldn't be the opening day starter, and I stand by that because I think Andrew Abbott should be rewarded. All that being said, Hunter Greene is the ace of the staff, and Hunter Greene is going to do big things this year. But it boils back to that stat that our good buddy Chris Welsh likes to talk about from time to time, and that is when you look at the back of the baseball card, you don't see it listed there. Oh, but you do. It's called games played. It's availability, because availability is the best ability. We've heard our guy say that many, many times, and Hunter Greene has had a problem in the availability department.
Yeah, he dealt with a groin injury for multiple months last season. There's definitely been points throughout his career where it seems like he is going, and then all of a sudden something shuts him down. He's never really had the big thing, at least in the majors. I know he had Tommy John surgery when he was in the minors, but he hasn't had the big thing in the majors just yet. But it's always kind of sapped his seasons. I mean, in 2024, Steve, he had 6.2 WAR, but he only pitched in 26 games. Those are the kind of numbers that get you in the Cy Young conversation, but you got to pitch more games to be at the top of that. And so I believe, looking at how his career has unfolded, I think he's pitching in 30 games this year. I'm going to go ahead and say that. And I don't think it's that hot of a take. I know that a lot of folks based on 19 starts a year ago would think it is, but he's basically been right close to where you would expect him to get before you see him take the leap to that number 30 spot. Because even in today's game, and even in situations where he's throwing complete games at a rate of 1 every other year, he's still only going to average about 6 innings per start. And so with that, I'm thinking he's like 174 innings. So I think we have this belief that when a guy throws 30 starts, he's over 200 innings, 210 innings, and that just feels like a huge lift for a guy whose career high is 150. But for the most part, in the way that managers attack the game with starting pitchers nowadays, most of them usually get around 175 to 180 in a full season. So I'd expect that's what we're looking at from him. We're going to get 30 starts from Hunter Greene in 2026.
Oh, I want to believe, Jeff. I want to believe so bad, but you're going to be asking him to go from what was his career low in games started and innings pitched at the major league level, and you're asking him to go to a new career high. That 2024 stat line you talked about was his career high. That was a new benchmark for him. The 26 starts, the 2.75 ERA, the 150 innings, all career highs. He did finish 8th in Cy Young votes, as you mentioned. I think 30 is a big ask, Jeff. I would love for him to get to 30, but that's a lot of extra wear and tear on an arm that didn't have it, hasn't had it, hasn't done it. I think that's just too big a jump. If he can go from 19 and get back to that 26, 27 start range, I'd be okay with that, because the hope is then he still makes some additional starts in a postseason run. And
Right.
I would like for him to have something left in the tank when the Reds get there and when they get to do that. If he starts 30 regular season games or more, I don't think there's going to be very much gas left in the tank when the Reds get into a postseason run. So I would much rather they manage him just a little bit better than that, dial that back, hold that back to the 26, 27 range with the idea that he's still going to pitch 30 games. He's still going to pitch 32 games, but he's going to do the rest of that work in the postseason. And I would be okay with that. Then you set up 2027 to be the year that he becomes the Brady Singer of it all, pitches in 32 regular season games, and is just your guy every fifth day. That's the Hunter Greene we all want. That's the Hunter Greene that he really needs to be to go to that next elite level. He's very, very good ace material now. To be elite, he needs to start 32 games in the season.
I think that I definitely agree with you on that when it comes to being elite. And that's the reason that he wasn't higher up in the Cy Young conversation either of the last 2 years. I mean, you're looking at 2 years now, 2024 and 2025. If you mush those 2 seasons together, he's got over 10 wins above replacement, at least according to Baseball Reference. And he has 45 starts. The problem with those 45 starts are that's just not enough for people that are voting on awards. And when you're comparing him to the Paul Skeens of the world, and when you're comparing him to the Zach Wheelers of the world, like if you're comparing them in a vacuum 1-game environment, Hunter Greene is comparable to any one of them. But when you're looking at the 162 and how a starting pitcher is supposed to be during that entire season, he has a clear deficiency against those other guys, because even in those 45 starts, Steve, his ERA is 2.75, period. Like his ERA in 2024 was 2.75 for 26 starts. His ERA was 2.76 in 19 starts last season. So, okay, maybe it's like 2.755, whatever the average is in between those two. So it's still amazing. It's under 3. And we're talking about a guy that's got a strikeouts per 9 right there around 11. And he really cut that walks per 9 in half, or almost in half, year over year from 2024 to 2025. So there's not a part of his game that we're like, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. He just needs to pitch more. And I think that what you say makes a lot of sense, because you're right. You want to see him pitch well in the playoffs. And the lasting memory that we all have of him in 2025 isn't the complete game shutout that he threw in April in San Francisco. It's the getting shelled in Los Angeles in the wild card game. And so he's got to build back from that. And it makes you wonder how much, even though he did not pitch a ton of games last year, what was his gas level at there at the playoffs?
Yeah, and given everything else that's gone on with him, you can bet money that he's never going to come out and be like, yeah, I was pretty tired. He's not going to say that after everything that's gone on.
He ain't saying that. He ain't saying he tit bitches. He ain't saying that.
Yeah, exactly. So, for Hunter Greene, we're talking what's reasonable. What are our predictions? What are the expectations? I look for him to be between 275 and 3 in an ERA. I look for him to start between 24 and 27 games, depending on how he does throughout the course of the year. If there's no injuries, we hope there's no injuries this year, maybe a complete game in there. You're looking at probably 150 regular season big league innings. I think that strikeouts per 9 is going to sit between 11 and 12. And I think that walks per 9 will stay under 3. I think that's the reasonable, real, legit expectations for Hunter Greene in 2026. That's an ace. That's a guy that's going to be on the all-star team. That's a guy that's going to lead this rotation. And that's a dude that can help the Reds win the division. So I am happy with the place that Hunter Greene is. I would like to see him continue to develop forward, get that level of starts in so that we can talk about him next year turning a corner and being elite. I think he's just right on the edge of it.
And to bring my 30 starts home, there's one more thing that I see. It's the pattern. 125 innings in 2022, down to 112 in 2023. 150 innings in 2024, down to 107 in 2025. I think we're going to see that big jump this year, and I believe he's going to make 30 starts in the regular season. And I still think he's going to be good to go. I think you can kind of manage that a little bit. I think he has come into camp, though. I mean, by all pictures that I've seen, looks again like he's cut. Like he was cut coming into camp last year. Looks like he's in good shape again this year. But I know this, Steve, when it comes to the pitching staff, Hunter Greene is the guy that leads it. There was a lot of chatter this offseason, though, about the lineup, and the Reds did that. They went out and they got a Eugenio Suarez. But now there's another former Red that is going to be available to anyone in just a moment. But I want to tell you why I would rather the memory of Nick Castellanos remain a memory. Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out the forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling all your taxes. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your day and your first listen every single day. Look, you always make us your team every day. Now, take it up a notch and go ad-free with the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club. Go to lockedonreds.supercast.com to learn more. You can get $5 a month or $50 for an entire year to get that ad-free podcast feed. You also get members-only Discord access where you get to talk to myself, Steve, and all of the other Locked On hosts, and so much more. Check out the link in today's episode description just down below to learn more. All right, Steve, we saw the news yesterday, and quite frankly, this has been an all off-season thing that the Phillies were just looking for someone to take Nick Castellanos, and we had said at one point we believed that they would probably even eat all or most of his contract just to move off of him, and we are seeing why, because they have told Nick Castellanos not to report to camp. And as much as we enjoyed 2021 with Nick Castellanos, I really appreciate the memories that we had. It felt like there was a great time with Castellanos in right field. I think that memory should remain a memory, and we should not be investing any time or money in Nick Castellanos in 2026 for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good run. And we did a whole show where we talked about the fact that for free, go get Nick Castellanos, plug him in as a DH, and let's just see what we can do. You know, we didn't want to put him in the outfield. We never said put him in the outfield. We said go get him, let him be the DH, stick him in the lineup, see what happens. Maybe he's got a little bit left in the tank. His year last year, Jeff, his 2025 was meh. I mean, it wasn't, oh my God, awful, but it also wasn't what the Phillies thought they were paying for. He was 250, 294, only slugged 400, 17 home runs last year, 72 RBIs. He did play in 147 games. He does have the availability thing going for him, 162 games the year before. So he stayed healthy. He, you know, a couple times hit 20 plus home runs, 29 home runs in 2023, 23 home runs in 2024. Those are all the reasons we thought you'd take a flyer on him before they got Gino.
Yes.
Because we wanted Castellanos to be the DH and help put a little life back into a lineup that really needed an infusion. It got that infusion. The situation has changed. And 49 home runs from Eugenio Suarez in the lineup is that infusion. He's going to be the primary DH. He's going to bat fourth. The Reds don't have a good fit for Nick Castellanos anymore. Nick will get a job. Somebody will see him and take a flyer on him on the open market. But he no longer fits in this Reds lineup, because to go get him, you're going to have to play Gino at first base. You're going to have to sit Sal Stewart. And I don't want to sit Sal Stewart and wonder about what Sal is going to be at the expense of being able to play Nick Castellanos a little bit. So the situation changed. The roles changed. The need changed. The Reds did the thing that we didn't think they would do, and they went out and addressed the need with the best guy available to address the need. So that's why the conversation has changed. And I wish Nick Castellanos luck. It's just not going to be in the Queen City.
Nick Castellanos, the Reds signing Nick Castellanos would have been a move this front office did a few years ago, where they didn't sign a Eugenio Suarez. He went elsewhere, and the Reds were looking for any kind of upgrade whatsoever. Nick Castellanos, if you're looking at like upgrade tiers of players that the Reds could have went and got, I think Gino is up there on the top tier. I think Castellanos is somewhere on the second or third tier. Like that would not have been a huge up. We're talking about a dude that in 4 years in Philadelphia, Steve, amassed a total of 1.4 wins above replacement in Philadelphia. That's according to Baseball Reference. A huge part of that is he is a massive defensive liability, as much as he argued with his own manager about that last year, where his own manager wanted to play him at DH and he did not. And that was a huge reason why the relationship in Philadelphia soured. He is not good with the glove anymore. And he even talked about this offseason. He was going on podcasts with other people talking about the fact that he's working on playing first base so that he can have some sort of value in the field to a potential suitor. Again, that's just not going to help me if I'm the Cincinnati Reds. There's no point in going after Nick Castellanos now, expecting to get 2021 Nick Castellanos, which, oh, by the way, was the best version of himself. Like that is the best year that he has had of his career. So expect him to do it again. That's just silly evaluation there. And I don't think that that would be what the Reds are looking at here. But you're right. Like when it comes to the fit, it was always at DH. It was never in the field. Now that the Reds have that, there's no point in going and getting it.
Yeah. And you talk about that WAR in Philadelphia, 1.3 in 4 years. To put that in perspective, he was at 3.1 in 2 years in Cincinnati. And
all of that was 2020.
And that was all in 2021. Yeah. He was 0 WAR in 2020. So, kudos to him. He did that thing, right? He parlayed a career year into a free agent contract, which is the thing that Tyler Stevenson's going to be trying to do. It's the thing that every Major League Baseball player tries to do when they're in a contract year. They want to have that year. They want it to be the magic numbers. So congrats to him for getting that done. But I think he's much more the player that he was in Philadelphia than he was the guy that he was in 2021.
Take the 4-year sample size over the 1-year sample size. That's what we try to tell people when it comes to statistical evaluation. When you see a bigger sample of something, that is the real thing. The smaller bit is not. Let me ask you this, Steve, because I could see him donning purple and hitting home runs out in Denver. Where do you see him going? I think he goes to the Rockies.
That's not a bad fit. The Rockies are just trying to be relevant at all.
Doing anything at all.
That's not a bad fit. He's a South Florida guy. I could see him in Miami.
That'd be fun.
Either of those places, I think, would be better fits for Nick Castellanos than the Reds are right now. And in Colorado, you're right. He will put up some numbers. It will make the back of his baseball card look a lot better. If he gets to go to Miami, he's close to home. The kids are there. The wife is there. The family is there. It's a good fit for Nick. So I could see either one of those things being a reality. Probably the two best fits in the league right now.
And I don't see either one of them going against what we're saying here and putting him out in the outfield, especially not in Colorado. I still think either one of them plays him as a DH, and maybe they sprinkle in a little bit of time at first base.
Basically, he's going to have the same positional role that Gino has, which is what also makes him not a good fit. Gino is going to be primarily a designated hitter and sprinkled in at first base. Nick Castellanos, wherever he signs, is going to be a primary DH and probably sprinkled in a little at first base. So that's the big clear cut reason right there why the Reds should have no interest in this at all.
But that's the one thing, like, I feel like this is the time of year where you see major league minimum deals, you see minor league deals with invites to spring training. And so a lot of people are thinking, like, could Nick Castellanos be one of those dudes? And I would only see it for spring training, and then he would be cut at some point. He's not a fit for this roster during the regular season.
Yeah, I would not be shocked at all to hear him on one of those teams we just talked about here. Very quick.
Colorado or Miami.
Yeah, Colorado or Miami. Join their rosters, head to their spring training. He'd be allowed to go there and then go ahead and get to play a little Major League Baseball. Listen, Jeff, Nick Castellanos is not a good fit. You know what is a good fit is the youth of this team and aggressive base running. and they got a bad rap last year and having a lack of aggression. Please don't pull a muscle because there is no medical attention.
It really looks like I'm running, actually.
It's a bad video game happening right now for the audio folks. It's the animation was really bad there is all I can tell you audio listeners. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the Reds and their base running. We've got that for you right after this. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can listen to us on any of the audio podcasting apps available out there. We're pretty much on every single one of them. Take us in the car, take us to the gym, take us for a walk. You can listen to the show. Also, living in the audio feed is the Everydayer Club, the ad-free version of Locked On Reds. $5 a month, $50 a year. You can get ad-free Locked On Reds, plus access to the Discord server that has not only Jeff and I, but every single Locked On host to talk ball anytime you want to. So go ahead and check that out today. The link for that is down in the show description. All right, Jeff, the Reds, I think, got a bad rap last year. And I think it's just because there was such an obvious change from how they ran the bases in 2024 to how they ran the bases in 2025. And when Terry Francona came in here, it's one of the things he talked about. He's like, we're still going to be aggressive, but we're going to be smart baseball. And we're not going to run ourselves out of innings, and we're not going to do things. Right. And something else happened, and that was Elly lost a wheel. And then all of a sudden it looked like, well, man, Francona has really shut this down. Turns out Elly couldn't run. He was hopping on one leg, guys.
Physically hobbled. Yeah.
He was a little deterred from running. So I'm interested to see how that plays out this year, because I think they were plenty aggressive on the bases, and you have found some stats to back that up.
Yeah, last season was intriguing because comparing them year over year, they certainly were less aggressive, and that kind of backs up the eye test. The thing that was key was that they were more efficient in what they did. They made less outs on the base path. So there's a little bit of, well, were they just too conservative? Because the point has been well made over the offseason that, okay, the team didn't have any power last year, so why didn't they run more? And when you compare them to a team like the Milwaukee Brewers that led the league in base running value, at least according to Baseball Savant, the Brewers were far more aggressive than the Reds were. And so all of that being said is, okay, what do the numbers say about the Reds? They were the number 9 base running team when you bring in stolen bases and advancing on, extra base hits and stuff like that. They were in the number 9 team in baseball. But when you take out stolen bases, when you just look at teams that took the extra base during a hit or something like that, they were number 3. So the stolen base really held them back last year, which is odd, knowing this team that really relied on the stolen base quite a bit in 2024. They didn't in 2025, and when they did, it was a negative. In fact, they had, at least according to Baseball Savant, they lost 2 runs compared to average when it came to their stolen base attempts. They gained 6 runs according to average when it comes to, adding that extra base, and extra base is taken, going first to third, going second to home, things like that. That was really where their value came. And the reason that we're talking about this is this came up already in spring training. There were a couple of guys that were talking about the fact that, yes, we are going to be better in the power game, but we still need to rely on causing chaos. And I think that a lot of folks would roll their eyes at that because they're like, what chaos did you really cause last year? But I think that there's more than people give them credit for, and still less than the year before.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, talking about Elly, he still stole 37 bases. So right. He did steal some bases. But, the next closest guy was Matt McLain with 18. So there was a lot less running going on. And I think we'll see them slide into a sweet spot in 2026. As long as Elly stays healthy and his legs are good, his numbers will jump back up, and he'll start doing Elly things again, and he'll bring some other guys along for the ride. And that is where I think Francona is going to become important, and to keep them focused in on, steal, but do it in smart baseball situations and don't run yourself out of innings. And I think they'll find a happy medium where, the net positive, the positive will still be in going first to third, going extra bases, but also you won't have a negative on the stolen base side. They're going to get that back into the positive too, which just benefits the team all the way around.
And I think it's important to note, like, with their efficiency, the Reds still weren't the most like aggressive at actually attempting the chaos. The chaos itself, there were 16 other teams that tried more advanced attempts, whether it's stolen bases or taking the extra base. 16 other teams had more attempts than the Reds do. Now, there was varying successes. Some of them were not very good at that. But that's just to say that if the Reds just try this more, I could see that number creeping up, and I could see them being a more efficient team, a more valuable team on the base paths. And I think that will add to their profile, where we think the lineup will be better. If the base running is better, that's going to just be double the productivity from the offensive side of things. And I look specifically too at one guy, because we talk, obviously Elly is the guy that we talk about when you talk about speed. And then you think, okay, Matt McLain's number 2. Spencer Steer in 2024, Steve, had 25 steals. In 2025, he had 7. I think part of that might have been the shoulder injury, but again, it was a shoulder injury. It wasn't a wheel. So I think that there was like some confidence there and just making sure that, he wasn't going to hurt his arm sliding into a base or something. But it was interesting to see that number drop so precipitously, because that is a huge difference in the team stolen base totals, because Elly is going to get his. It's the other guys stealing bases. And when Spencer Steer, who I think a lot of folks were surprised to know that he had more than 20 steals in 2024, had less than 10 steals in 2025, that's got to even itself out a little bit too.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. That was probably one part shoulder and just not wanting to re-injure himself and not feeling comfortable, and one part, the Terry Francona, we're not going to run as often plan, right? So I think those two things combined, we'll see his numbers jump too. I think it's going to be interesting, Spencer Steer's season, because if he's just playing primarily left field and kind of has settled into a role and can get comfortable and do things, I expect most of his numbers to jump.
I agree with that. And he is a guy that I don't think we talk about enough, because, I called him the mashed potatoes.
Well, it's always we're talking about the team, and then, oh yeah, by the way, Spencer Steer. Yeah, we didn't talk about Spencer Steer.
Yeah, we talk about, and I'm sure we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Spencer Steer as we get into spring training, but we talk about Elly, we talk about Matt McLain, we've talked about Noelvi Marte as McLain and Marte being the X factors and things like that. Spencer Steer, he's just kind of here, but he is much better than a guy that we should be forgetting about. And I think that he's going to show that this year.
Yeah, I expect his numbers to jump back up. You look at his WAR. In 2023, his WAR was 2.9. 2024, it kind of dropped down to 1.5, and all the way down to 0.7 in 2025. So 23, 2.9, 24, 1.5, 25, 0.7. That's going to bounce. He's not going to stay down there. So I'm kind of excited about him. We'll spend some time this spring talking about Spencer Steer. He's going to be an interesting one to watch as spring training unfolds, as the games are played out in Goodyear, not only from an offensive perspective and how he's hitting and if he looks comfortable and how his shoulder looks, all the things, but also how he looks defensively in the outfield, playing left field consistently, running the right routes, making good throws, all of the things. He's basically, changing positions again. So this is going to be an interesting spring for Spencer Steer. And the Reds really do need him to go. I mean, yeah, we're excited. They got Gino. The top of the lineup looks great. We know what guys are going to be hitting up there, but not that far after Eugenio Suarez will come Spencer Steer in the lineup. And the Reds need for him to have a season to capitalize on that production, because as the detractors have talked about, there will be times that Gino strikes out. There will be times that Gino doesn't get a hit, and Spencer Steer may be the next guy up with an opportunity to drive in those runs and bring Elly around and bring bring Noelvi Marte, bring TJ Friedl, maybe Matt McLain at some point in time. But, Spencer Steer is going to have opportunity is what I'm saying, and he needs to be able to capitalize on that.
If you had to peg it right now, who's probably going to bat fifth the most and who's going to be the most efficient when it comes to batting fifth between Spencer Steer or Tyler Stevenson? Because I kind of feel like it's between those two guys. If Noelvi Marte is not batting second, I would like to see him like in that bottom third of the order, really, beefing up the bottom third. But ultimately, who do you see between them?
No, it's pretty easy for me. If either Matt McLain or Sal Stewart play themselves into batting second, I'm good with that. Noelvi's my number 5.
Okay.
Until that happens, Noelvi's batting second, Spencer Steer's batting fifth, Tyler Stevenson's batting sixth.
That makes sense to me. I agree with that because I would see that Marte gets the first opportunity there. I don't think there's anything in camp outside of an injury that would make that different, because I don't think that Matt McClain can prove through spring training that he is back. Like, he's got to prove that in the regular season. Same with, South Stewart. I don't think he can prove that he deserves to have all of that pressure heaped on him in the regular season out there in Goodyear. And so we'll see Noelvi Marte early on batting second. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. That it's clear that with this lineup, they're going to hit more, but it's also clear that they cannot just shun the base running. And for comparison's sake, as I mentioned about the stats and things like that, and them being less aggressive, in 2024, the Reds had 639 total attempts at, whether it be stolen bases or advancing that extra base on a hit or what have you. And in 2025, they had a total of 545, almost 100 less attempts. I see that number evening out this year.
Right. I agree. And on that happy note, that is where we're going to wrap up this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Reds on all of your social medias at Locked On Reds to get all of the content we've got coming your way. You can also follow Jeff on the socials at Jeff Carr. That's a Jeff with 3 Fs. You can follow me at S. Offenbaker. For the audio folks, go make your second listen Locked On MLB. Sully's got you covered over there with Major League Baseball from a national perspective. Lots of good stuff in that feed. For the video folks, stick around. We're going to send you right over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national sports channel, where all of the experts of Locked On Reds are talking ball 24/7. So make sure you are subscribed. Till next time, we will keep gathering up the news, the notes, the rumors, and the reports to keep you Locked On Reds every single day.
I got a little
That
bit
running man
sweaty.
thing was scary, dude. I don't know what.
I got a little bit sweaty trying to do it too.
You were gonna hurt yourself. I was gonna have to call Hannah to come pick you up off the floor.